Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So now we are in chapter 12, verse 9. So here it says, Atha chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayi stiram abhyasa yogena tataha mame chaptum dhananjaya. You will chant after me. Atha chittam samadhatum na shaknoshi mayi stiram abhyasa yogena tataha mame chaptum dhananjaya. Okay, now Smita. Okay.
Chapter 12, verse 9.
Okay. Now, here he says that first we have to understand, in the previous verse it was said bhakti. Bhakti means devotion. Okay. Generally, our understanding of devotion is what? You go to a temple or you go to church and you do some prayers or you are doing some ritual. This is the time that you are connecting to Ishvara. Okay? And when you are at work and when you are making decisions or when you are relating to people, according to you, that's not when you are relating to Ishvara. Right? This is our understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
What he says, change this concept. Okay? Ananya Bhakti means not only when I am in temple or in some religious place and I am doing some bhajan or some prayers or reading whatever, that's when you are relating to Ishvara. If you understand Ishvara as all that is here, okay, and it manifests, one of the manifestation of Ishvara are all the different laws. Okay. So when I am interacting with you, and if I am following laws of dharma, I am in harmony with Ishvara. Right? Because I don't step on your rights. That is relating to Ishvara. Okay? It's not only when you are in the temple or in the thing, right? When you are confronting a difficult situation without making a judgment that this person is very bad, or making a judgment that the world is unfair, or the fact that I am a victim of circumstances, or I am a failure, but if you see the fact that there are laws of nature which also include what? Cause, which is my action, and effect, which is the result of that action. And those laws of cause and effect are unfailing in nature. With this attitude, if you can take any result with a certain amount of composure, you are in touch with Ishvara. When you are able to deal with all your emotions without denying them or without suppressing them, and you understand the presence of psychological order, that there are some situations that I went through or somebody else went through which gives rise to this emotion, you understand the order which is psychology, which is one of the manifestation of Ishvara, and you let go, you are in touch with Ishvara. Okay? So you have to expand what you mean by your connection to Ishvara. Okay? Bhakti, definition of bhakti is when you connect to Ishvara. So you have to understand in all these circumstances, I am in touch with Ishvara. If I understand Ishvara from that given law, right? Because what is also very important, people ask this question, how does it help me to know that, how the knowing of the fact that all that is Ishvara, how does it help me to deal with an individual who, for example, I think is unfair to me? You see? How does it help me? Okay. Does it mean that, oh, everybody is Ishvara, so I don't respond? Does it mean that I let the other person walk all over me because everything is Ishvara? Okay. So that means when I see how can I use my free will intelligently, okay, to draw my own boundaries, I'm in touch with Ishvara. Because I not only have responsibility towards not harming others, I also have responsibility towards not harming myself. So when I put my boundaries, I'm in touch with Ishvara. But in putting that boundaries, how gentle I am to not unnecessarily hurt the other person. Okay? So I will tell you, because what we think is either we are totally passive and we don't say anything, and then what? All the pressure accumulates, and then one day we just blow up. So there are only two ways we know how to respond to something that displeases us. Either not say anything or just blow up. There are so many in-between ways to respond to that. Okay? You state what you have to state, but you do it as non-violently as possible. Okay? I will give you a real-life example which I just heard from somebody. A very, very nice example. What I liked about that example is something which was handled so beautifully and it accomplished what had to be done. But without hurting anyone. So one lady told me a real life situation, okay, that when she got married, that she was a very good dancer, very, very, very talented dancer. And then when she got married, like the normal story of a normal, family and mother-in-law and all these different responsibilities that you have to look after your, own parents-in-law, and then your husband wants food, and like this, all these responsibilities that come with this so-called Indian marriage. So that means all her time started going in just what? Looking after and performing duties, right? Now in that process, what happens is all her talents, all her kind of skills were totally relegated to the back. Now, you can do it with this sense of duty for a while, but after a while, you are dissatisfied. And that is something which is natural and it is healthy, because the nature is saying, yes, you have to perform your duties, but not at your own cost. Right? So now, this person was becoming more and more unhappy and was feeling stuck. Okay? Now, her sister-in-law saw the situation because she has to share this unhappiness with somebody. So she shared it with her sister-in-law because they were friends. Now the sister-in-law said, okay, I totally understand. Okay, so now you have two, she thought she had two options, either to continue like that and be unhappy, or she can just say that now this is enough, I want to do my things and this and that, and then it will create a lot of unhappiness at home because people are So sister-in-law said, there is another way of dealing with it. So she said, you don't have to tell that, oh, now I want to pursue my dance and this and that. You just say one thing, that I have a friend and she is also a dancer. Okay? I want to go 1 hour in a day and just practice with her. So what happened is, they said, okay, now 1 hour in a day, it's okay, they can easily handle that. That was not like too much. She was not asserting herself like, this is my rights and this is why I want to retake that. She just says, I'm doing that. So she started going once a day for 1 hour and practicing with her friend. Okay? And that was not disturbing anything. What happened is that gave her a big outlet to be outside that home and really take care of her needs and her hobby and her interest. Okay? That was nourishing her so much that 1 hour became such an important time for her to nourish herself. She started feeling good about herself. From this feeling of dissatisfaction, there was this, okay, now tomorrow I'm going to do this, I'm going to practice this. So that changed her psychology. So when she came back, she was not complaining and when she had to do a few things, because she had her own time. Okay? Over a period of time, that 1 hour became 1.5 hours. This is, today I have a little bit more, and that was unnoticed. Okay? Slowly, what happened is, they were so good in what they were doing. Somebody offered, can you perform here? Okay. Then they said, okay, now today I have a performance. Oh, that's fine. Okay, you go and do that. Okay. Then they were getting invited internationally. So what happened is, she grew very slowly and quietly. And with every invitation she got, actually the family was really happy. Oh, now she's invited to Japan, now she's invited to Korea, right? So that means she did not make this whole big statement that, what about my rights, that I have to go back to my love, and she was not fighting. She just started with 1 hour, and what? She started a direction. Very quietly. Okay? And what happened? She persisted, and the order helped her, because she was being proactive about what she had to do, rather than, and with this sensitivity to the environment. So there are so many intelligent ways of intervening. Okay? And when you can find right interventions at the right time without disturbing the environment, you are in touch with Ishvara. When you understand that the laws are, when you take one step forward, the universe will help you to take 2 more steps forward. And you go with the flow, intelligently navigate your life, understanding how the universe works, you are in touch with Ishvara. Okay? So that means your connection with Ishvara is permanent. There is no time that you are not in connection with Ishvara, because Ishvara manifests in all these different laws, in different ways. So this is what he says, that Ananya Yoga Bhakti is something that you need to achieve. Niru was there. A psychiatrist came to our retreat in Anakati, and at the end of the retreat, he said, many times, because he was a psychiatrist and he was also interested in Gita, so he was trying to incorporate whatever he understood of Gita in his practices of training and whatever, training people and all. So but he says, many times people ask me a question, and they ask me, what value added Gita has to psychology, to modern psychology, because modern psychology is very advanced. Right? And they have understood mind and how it operates, and they are very very sometimes effective techniques to reprogram or reorient your thinking process, right? So people ask, what is the value added of Gita? Why you are using Gita? How does it help? What does it, first of all, is there a total convergence? Are they two saying exactly the same thing? If they are saying the same thing, then why do you need Gita? Because modern psychology has all the tools. Okay? So what is the value added? And he says, I could never really answer this question clearly. He says, after this retreat, I could answer, he says, I see very clearly the demarcation between the two. He said two things that Gita brings that modern psychology does not have. First is Ishvara. Modern psychology has no understanding of the inherent intelligence which manifests in form of all the different laws. It doesn't have. Okay. When you start with understanding that there is an inherent intelligence in the creation which manifests in all these different laws, what is your starting point? That the world is fair. Everything is designed with an unbelievable amount of precision. Okay. If this is your basic, very deep understanding, psychology doesn't have that. Psychology just says that there is a cause and effect relationship between your emotions and the kind of experiences that you have gone through. And then it makes you see why your past experiences influence the way you assess situations now. And by doing that, it will try to make you a little bit better at assessing situations. That's what psychology does. Right? But the underlying assumption about how the world operates is not changing.
So the interconnectedness.
The interconnectedness
And
and
the
the laws,
continuity.
and the continuity and the laws of dharma, laws of karmas are not included in psychology.
And basically that they're all fair.
Fair.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing.
And so because we often say, why did it happen
To me.
And
Absolutely.
But if you analyze that, if you think about it in a different way, to say that
But there are some causes which I may not know. Right? So that is very interesting.
because nobody talks about it like that, everybody tells you do this, do that, but they don't tell you that the premise is that everything is fair.
Yes.
Who is this?
Anand Nadkarni.
Oh, Anand Nadkarni.
Oh, you know him?
Yes, he used to come to our school
Oh,
many years ago in Thane.
Thane.
Yes. His wife came to Rishikesh.
Oh, did she?
And he came to
America.
Lovely people.
Yes,
For years he was coming to us to really
Oh.
Yeah, because it's so difficult to get a good person today. All they do is give you medication and they suppress all the feeling. And poor children are all completely like vegetables and plant. But he has a very good approach.
Yes.
And he came years ago to our school. Then of course he started with all
Well, that's what
institute.
I
Kind of thing.
How the world works, it's just incredible.
I will take his number from you.
I will.
Reconnect with him.
Reconnect, lovely.
Yes, because he used to come very often to our school. And I don't know what happened. And then we lost her. Then I think he started his own. And then slowly he sort of moved away. And then I suppose they never invited him or what I don't know.
And he said the second thing that is not available in psychology is this whole big vision about the nature of life. They all work with one thing, that I am this limited individual, and that is taken as the reality.
So basically I and the world.
Yeah. So
Again,
there is a
separation.
there is a separation.
Isolation.
Absolutely.
He must not think that I am limited in that sense.
See, as we saw, Smita, that when you, just to remind you a little bit about what, in order to arrive at the true nature of ourselves, we employed a methodology. We employed a methodology by saying there is a seer and there is seen. And so everything is seen by me, that I don't have any problem. This body, is it the seer or the seen?
Seer or the seen?
Which category would you put it in?
Not the seer, because there's the seen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the attributes, even though it is seen, the attributes of the body are taken to be the attributes of the seer. So that means if I'm short, or if I'm tall, or if I'm fat, or if I'm whatever, I take it as my attributes.
Yeah.
So whatever is seen, you don't take on the attributes of what is seen by you.
Yeah. Right. So that means you may think of yourself as something, but you do not actually be seen that way.
Exactly. So that means that I see the table, I don't take on the attributes of table. I see the body and the changes that the body is going through, and this, even the cells are changing. I don't take on the attributes of the body. I have a connection with that body for sure, but because I have a connection, I don't take on the attributes of the body. What about the mind? Mind is something which is the seer or the seen?
Mind is seer. No, seen. Mind is
Seen.
the seen.
Mind, if you define mind as series of thoughts,
Yeah.
is it seen by me or not? Coming and going of every thought is seen by me.
Seen by me, yes.
Right? So now again I make a second error. I take the attributes of mind, which is seen by me, as the attributes of the seer. Because my mind has had millions of thoughts up to now. None of the thoughts that I have thought about is sticking to me now. If that was my nature, it would stick to me.
My thoughts.
My thoughts. Thoughts come and go.
Yeah. But then some thoughts stay with you and some thoughts.
But even if they stay with you, they stay in form of a memory, which then you retrieve at an appropriate time. But your mind is not totally all the time, that your eye is not totally cluttered with all the memories that you are carrying in one center of your brain. It's just staying there. You just retrieve it whenever you need it. Or sometimes it just comes out. Some situation triggers it and that memory comes out. But eye is not actually loaded with that. If it was the intrinsic nature of eye, you will never find yourself without it. The very fact that it comes and goes means it is not your real nature.
So then your real nature would be?
Is awareness. Awareness because of which these different conditions of the body are known, different conditions of the mind are known. So this is what we call Chit. Chit Swarupa in Sanskrit. It is Sat, it is existent, it is Chit, it is in form of awareness, and that awareness we saw that how many awarenesses are there? This is what people think, that as men, because we saw the space example.
One the space, one wisdom.
It seems like a
It
new
seems like many, but there's just one. So that is the error.
So that's the error. Right? And that error is a very big error. That imagine this cup space starts thinking that I'm only this much, and the room space is so big, then it is going to certainly have complex with reference to room space. Because it compares and says, I'm just confined here, I'm so small, and look at this is big. It is only one thing. undivided. It's not even a real part, because the space has no parts. It seems to be confined. Once you understand that you are this awareness, it seems to be confined to this body and mind, but you don't have any boundaries. And everything, everybody is what? Same.
It's the same
Same awareness. Same. Everybody is in the same situation. Everybody takes that awareness to be confined to their body and mind.
Yeah. That's good.
So this particular understanding is certainly not available in psychology. Right? Here there is a vision of oneness. There, no, it's a plural. Psychology works on a plural world. I'm different from you, and she is different from me, and this is this reality.
So then what makes us different is our awareness or our thoughts or our...
So what makes us different is our connection with the body and mind. Because even though awareness is in and through all bodies, I have a special relationship with what? Only one body and one mind. So I take my, how do I define I? Awareness from the standpoint of this body and this mind. And you define your I as awareness from the standpoint of this body and this mind. That's what creates difference between us. So as long as my I remains in body and mind, everybody is different. But now, if I correct that error, and I said bodies and minds are different, nobody is denying it. But is that I? I am, because of which body and mind, the changing bodies and nature of body and mind is known to me. And that awareness is one. They are not many. This is what we call vision of oneness. So that is not available to psychologist or psychiatrist. He says in these two, there are very fundamental differences between psychology and spirituality. So he says, now I'm very, very clear. And he says, I'm so lucid that if a patient comes to me now, I will use my professional knowledge of psychiatry and psychology, but it will be with a foundation of Gita and Vedanta. So whenever appropriate, I will bring in different aspects which are relevant to that situation, in dealing with that situation. I will deal with that situation with a much broader framework. So this is what he is saying, which was lovely. I thought it was lovely.
Which is what most should think about.
So, that is what we call Ananya Bhakti. So you have to redefine what does it mean to relate to Ishvara. Multifaceted relationship. Right? Then, there is a second thing which is very important, that when you listen to Vedanta and you understand the whole world very differently than what you had understood before. Right? So that means during this 1 hour, you are relearning everything about who you are, what is the nature of the universe, what is the nature of the cause, how does it manifest in the whole universe as laws. So this is all this new information that is available to you. Okay? Now, after this 1 hour, you go back and you are in your own setup. Situations arise and it requires your response. Question is, how much is going to be, how much of your response is going to be based on your past habit And how much of it is going to be based on your new learning? How much? If you expect that the minute you relearn something, your entire behavior will change, it is not going to happen. So anybody who asks this question, if you're listening to Gita for 6 years and you still have this, yeah, you will have this. And you always still have to be alert. And you still have to detect it and correct it. Because it doesn't happen automatically. Exactly. Exactly. And that job is yours. I can't do that job for you. Right? How much when the situation arises, how much you operate from your previous understanding, which is like an auto mode, and how much do you bring in this new information and re-look at things and behave differently? It's your job. Teacher can only make you what? See the realities in different light. That is teacher's job.
Put it into practices.
Yeah, it's your job. So this is what Lord Krishna says, Abhyase natu kaunteya. Don't think that by relearning the nature of reality, when it comes to response, it will be what? Response based on new learning automatically. Abhyasa means repetition, alertness, right? And that job, Arjuna, you have to do.
So that awareness from
Yes.
the learning
Yes.
is what also makes you different from me.
Excellent. Because what habitual thinking that I have is different from your habitual thinking. Right? Somebody has a psychology when one feels I'm a victim. The world is very bad and I'm very good. Right? And I'm innocent and people are mean and they're taking advantage of it. This is a psychology, and every time, whatever happens, this is a framework with which the person will look at the situation. This is what we call in psychology, victim psychology. There is another psychology which is what? Failure psychology. You don't blame the world, you blame yourself. You say, I'm no good, I can't even do this, I have a low self-esteem, low self-image. So that means your habitual pattern is different from my habitual pattern. Somebody is carrying a lot of anger in them. Somebody is carrying a lot of sadness and depression. Somebody is carrying a lot of fear. So that means each one is carrying different load. Right? So that, and different orientation. I first have to see, what is my orientation? Even that requires a lot of alertness and a lot of honesty. Because what happens is, people misuse Vedanta. People say, oh, I'm free. Awareness has no limits, it has no boundary, it has no attributes, so everything is fine. And then they ignore what? Exactly, the whole psychology. They use Vedanta to bypass the whole psychological life.
So they justify.
They justify whatever happens and they don't address with this one vision, which is what? Awareness is free, which is fact. Awareness is free, but you're born with what? With a connection from one body and mind. And that mind has stored information because of the previous wrong understanding, which has led to a given orientation. And you can't ignore that. Because that, if that orientation takes over in making decisions, your learning is superficial. You have not learnt it. You have to integrate the two.
So also what you've been brought up with, that has played such a big part in your life. You know, the way you live brought up, what you expect.
The values that you are given.
Everything. Everything.
Everything. Your context in life.
It's all on your
That
life.
situation, somebody is privileged, somebody is not, somebody is a metro person, somebody is a small villager. I think all of it.
Whatever, yeah. So your actions is all conditioned
At every
by
level. At every level.
So many conditioning.
so
right?
much conditioning.
So much conditioning in so many ways. There is a very good thinker. He's a French thinker, contemporary. His name is François Gautier. He was analyzing the world and he says, how do we define success? He says the whole definition of success has become totally unidimensional. Money.
My son would love to hear this.
It is like that because we always measure your success with money. How much you make, what is your status in life, what is your
Like my son has told Arun, I don't want to be a CEO.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So, not exactly. Money and everything related to money. So that means where do you live?
Yeah.
It's related to how much money you have. What car you drive?
Right.
Related to money you have. What school you went to? Somehow, yes, your intelligence, but also the money that you have. Okay? So that means everything is centered, even though I think it is the house or education, but everything is centered, goes back to money.
Yeah, exactly.
And he says that with this unidimensional definition of success, how much harm is done in the society.
But how
He
to
says,
change?
now exactly, I will tell you how beautifully he analyzes his problem. He has written a book which is a brilliant book, right? Gautier, François Gautier.
In French.
No, it's in English. Nice book. He's a good thinker. So now he says, what are the problems with this? He says there are many problems. The first problem is human being by nature is multidimensional. The human being is not by nature what? I have love for art, I am creative being, I have compassion, I have so many different facets of my personality. By this totally blind chase for one goal, what am I doing? All the other aspects of me which are there, what I'm totally neglecting. When I neglect so many parts of me which are there, am I going to be happy? It is impossible. He says there is this huge cost because if my success is defined only by this, all my attention is in that and the rest gets ignored. When I ignore the rest, I don't blossom as a human being. Because there is so much sacrifice, so much neglect in so many areas that I have need. I as a human being, I have need to relate to people. I have a need to receive love from others. I have a need to receive care from others. And I neglect it all because I have to spend all my time and effort in one thing. Okay? That is the first loss. The second loss is not only I am dissatisfied because my needs are not met. If the entire society agrees that there is only one definition of success, which is this money, the people who don't have it, how are they going to feel about themselves? And he gives an example, or I think I gave an example or whatever. Okay? And this is a real example, and this is a fact. Okay? Now, just one of my friends, she told me that her daughter goes to a school. Okay? And her daughter told her mom that I'm invited to a party. my friend's birthday party, so I'm going. So mom said, yeah, okay, fine. After a few days, her daughter said that no, the party is cancelled. So the mother got a little bit curious why the party was cancelled. So she just engaged with the other child, who is a friend of her daughter, to find out, so why did you cancel? Here, the child, children are innocent. She said that I go to my friend's home, they are so beautiful, they are so fancy. My home is not as good. I'm ashamed to invite all my friends to my home. At a young age.
Yes, absolutely.
There is so much pressure. Imagine an innocent child inculcates these values that, my God, I'm ashamed to show.
Very much. I mean, in the cathedral it was so much, so rampant.
Oh, really?
And I know at least 3 children who had to drop out of school because they couldn't cope with others coming in fancy cars or, And children can be very mean. So they don't have all that.
So that they will just exclude those people.
Those children.
And those kids really grow up with a lot of complex.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that means not only you are not satisfying yourself, we are creating societies where kids are fed with this attitude and this feeling from a very young age. Imagine the amount of burden they carry within themselves.
Yes, that's why sometimes these boarding schools were really good because everybody was at the same level. You didn't know who was wealthy, who wasn't. It was a level playing field, And then the teaching was good and then you excelled in whatever you do. You didn't have to cope with all this.
So he said that is the second loss.
Yeah.
The third loss, he goes on increasing the scope of the loss. He says, when everybody is after money and having more and more and more, everybody wants to consume more and have more, what is the impact? We disturb the ecology. Okay? We are just this completely taking from the nature without any thinking of the long-term repercussions. So that means we bring about so much imbalance in the way the world is. He says, this is destructive, it is unsustainable. You extend this period of this distortion at every level, at your personal satisfaction level, at the level of the society and the members of the society and how they are made to feel about themselves, and at the level of the ecology and what are the balances at the level of earth. We are disturbing everything. So then he said, the world needs a different model of what is success. You need to redefine that success. And he says, where will that alternative model come from? Then he says, Vedic vision.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
But it's so true.
It is so true. He says, according to Veda, who is a successful person? What is the end in life? Not artha, not kama, is moksha. What is moksha? Knowing my true nature, my freedom, and what? Self-growth to achieve that freedom. When self-growth becomes your end, what? You incorporate dharma. You incorporate the fact that what? You have to be, that the fact that things happen according to a certain order, you are composed. When you are mean to others, or you are disturbing not only just one person but the entire system, and the effect of which will come back to you. When somebody that you have to deal with is difficult, you understand that that person is what that person is because of what? Certain background that the person has had. That means that behavior is within the laws.
And how would
respond to that person. So therefore, you also have to understand the laws of your free will, how much you use it, how to use it to draw your boundaries. All this is within the laws of Ishvara. This is when you are proactive, you do what needs to be done to protect yourself and at the same time not carry the burden of somebody's behavior.
Then how do you know what the right thing to do at that time? I mean,
The right thing to do at that time is something that it depends upon that given situation. Right? You don't know without that situation arising, you don't know what is the right response. And there is not one right response.
there are so many.
There are so, in the sense that every situation, when we make a hypothetical situation, many of the assumptions that we have are sometimes erroneous. Okay? When I talk about these laws of karma, in fact today I was talking to somebody and they all ask this one question. There are people who have done nothing wrong and they have to suffer so much. It's a common question. Okay? I said this assumption that you have done nothing wrong, there is no human being who has done nothing wrong. It's impossible. I said I don't accept, I can't give the answer based on this scenario because the starting point of this scenario is faulty. So therefore, in fact, so many hypothetical situations people say, oh, and in those hypothetical situations, the way they present themselves as that they are stuck and they don't have any choice. This is also not true. Like this lady who found herself stuck in the situation and she felt that there were no choices. You always have a choice. How do you recognize that choice? How do you exercise that choice is your maturity, your thinking.
But then if your thinking is wrong,
If your thinking is wrong, this is why you need to expose yourself to a teaching like this. You need to help yourself. Because it will give you a framework to look at life differently. Unless you shift your understanding, you are like a frog in a well, caught in that framework. You don't know how to get out of it.
openness to accept.
Vedanta makes you see the whole thing, within which this is a reality. We don't deny that reality, but it gives you a proper perspective. Otherwise what happens is, small things become very big and big things are missed out in life.
The important things and to prioritize what is the important.
What is that? Our thinking gets so sometimes, I see how when I can see when I'm explaining a concept, okay, there are some minds who are very captivated and they try to understand the concept accurately. There are some other minds who get caught in peripheral thinking. Their thinking goes on a tangent and it creates so much confusion. They ask so many questions which are kind of related, but not if they're peripheral, they're inconsequential to understanding that framework. Once you understand the framework, those answers will automatically come. But they get so carried away by all these details and wanting to find out all the but then if this and but then this and but this is, and they don't pay attention to the concept in which, understanding of which lies all these things being put in place. So therefore, this teaching is something which is so much giving you clarity about what is what without denying anything. And to bring in this teaching in your day-to-day living is your job. And it is what he says, Abhyase natu kaunteya Okay? Malik Chaptum Dhananjaya. That constantly bring in this teaching again and again when you have to make decisions. There is no point in time that you can say, oh, I've done it all. Doesn't exist. Just like, and that's why repeated and listening is so critical. It's like you take food every day, but can you say that, no, now I've taken enough food? You can't, you need every day. This is food for your psyche.
The situation, context.
Yeah. And you need to re-listen, you need to re-listen so that your mind, which has a tendency to go on a tangent or to get into that previous habitual mode, is what kept under check by every week reminding you of this perspective. It's so important. So this is what he says. Repetition in this teaching is a lot. But that repetition is so important to nourish the psyche and to reorient the psyche. Okay? So that he says that if you cannot, the change of perspective is not instantaneous. It requires repeated effort on your part. Okay? Then Arjuna has a question. He has listened to all these big words and he wants to know what it means. Okay? So chapter 13. Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetrajnameva cha etat veditumicchami jnanam jnaya cha keshava. So repeat after me. Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva
Prakriti Purusham Chaiva
Kshetram Kshetrajnameva cha
Kshetram Kshetrajnameva cha
Etat veditumicchami
Etat veditumicchami
Jnanam jneyam cha keshava.
Jnanam jneyam cha keshava.
Okay. So here he says, I have heard all these terms. Can you explain to me what they mean? Okay. One is Purusha and Prakriti. Okay. The other one is Kshetram and Kshetrajna. Okay. And Jnanam and Jneyam. Okay. So what is Prakriti and what is Purusha? Okay. Now these terms of Prakriti and Purusha, they come from Indian philosophy called Sankhya. Okay?
In this,
Sankhya comes as one of the, when you study Indian philosophy, they study what they call Shad Darshan. Shad Darshan means 6 different schools of thought. Okay? So one is Nayayika, these are all philosophers. Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, okay? Then Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. This is what, when they say that Indian philosophy, if you go to academics and you want to study that, you study these 6 schools of thought. Now, what we are studying is Uttara Mimamsa, which is Vedanta. Okay. Now, Arjuna had heard this whole thing about Purusha and Prakriti and he wanted to relate it to what Lord Krishna was talking about. Right? So here we have to understand that the way Lord Krishna replies, it's not in this, I have not selected, but it's the following. What is a Purusha? Purusha is this awareness from, okay, now before we go to what is Purusha and Prakriti, Purusha is this awareness which has no limit. This is what we call Purusha. Okay? So that means up to now I have established the fact that awareness has no limits. It pervades everything. Okay? Now the second question is what it pervades. Where does it come from? Awareness pervades bodies, awareness pervades mountains, awareness pervades trees, awareness pervades the bodies of animals, reptiles, birds, everything. Galaxies, everything. Right? Who made galaxies? Who made reptiles and mountains and rivers and all that? Right? One thing is to say awareness pervades everything, but who made all those things that awareness pervades? That is the second question. Okay? So the answer to that question is, okay, this awareness has now are there two things. One is awareness and the second is all the different things that awareness pervades. If there were two different things, can you call awareness limitless?
Awareness and Purush.
No, awareness and everything that it pervades, the galaxies, the human beings, the mountains, the rivers, if they were separate from awareness, it would. Right? Because they are two separate things. One, awareness is like saying space pervades everything, right? But the cup is not space. True? So therefore there are many different objects and then there is one space which is in and through everything. You can't call space limitless. Why? Because it is different from the cup that it pervades. True? Yeah. Now,
but yet it pervades everything.
It pervades everything, but it is not, it's not a cup, it's not a mountain, it is not a tree. It pervades everything. True. You see? This is where this whole second aspect, which is Prakriti. Purusha is all-pervasive awareness. Okay? What accounts for this creation? Is there anything else other than awareness? Is the question. Okay. So this is where we say that this awareness itself has a power to project as many. This is what we call Prakriti or Maya Shakti. Okay. So therefore, the mountains that you see, the rivers that you see, the galaxies that you see are not different from awareness. How do I understand that? Okay. This is where quantum physics helps me. Okay. You think that the mountain is a real entity, a solid entity, a tangible entity. What it says is, actually this mountain, which is a solid entity, is nothing but what? Atoms and particles. And when you go at a subtler than particle level, there is no tangible object. Okay? This whole mountain that you see is actually nothing but few particles, mostly space, constantly moving. This is reality. But how does it appear to human eye? Like a stable, solid mountain. Okay. So therefore, what it says is, in fact, in particle physics, after when you go down from atoms to particles and then to quark, there is no real tangible object anymore. It is only concepts. Okay. What they say is that at that quantum level, there is no real distinction between a mass and a wave. It really depends upon the intention of the observer. A given thing acts like a particle if you want to measure the mass. If you want to measure the speed, it behaves like a wave. So that means it depends upon the intention of the observer. There is no real tangible thing at all at a quantum level. This is what physicists say. So therefore, ultimately, it is nothing but concept. Anything, the star that you see, same atoms and particles but in a different permutation and combination. Human body, same atoms and particles but in different permutations and combination. So the whole universe is nothing but atoms and particles with different permutations and combination. And particles themselves are not the final building block of the universe. It goes down further to quarks and then just concepts. If everything is just a concept, then you have to ask the question, what is the relationship between awareness and concept? Can concept exist without awareness? Any concept? No. Does awareness need concept for its existence?
No.
No. So that means the relationship between the entire universe and awareness is that universe depends upon awareness for its existence. This is why we call it mithya. It has a dependent existence. Awareness is independently existing of the universe. One. Imagine you see, how do I understand this? You see 10 clay pots. Okay. If you count the forms, how many things are there?
In the clay pot.
Yeah.
Earth, like that.
No, but if I say, okay, now let me, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if you count the flowers, how many flowers are here?
1, 2,
3, 4, 5, 5, right? But if you count the plastic, then how many things are there?
many things that go out to make the plastic.
Yeah. But there is only one thing, which is the one object called plastic, and it is appearing in so many different names and forms.
Right.
When you see 10 pots, if you look at the forms, there are 10. But if you look at the content, which is the clay, let's say if it's a clay pot, how many things are there?
One.
Only one. Right? It depends upon what you are looking at. If you look at the form, there are many. But if you look at the content, there is only one. Now, you multiply these 10 pots into million pots. The same logic will apply. If you pay attention to form, there are million. But if you pay attention to the content, one. Right? So this is
So
what.
by form, you don't mean the shape, you just mean the what it's.
What I mean is that shape, the object. The object is defined by what? The name, form and function. Why do I call that clay pot? I could also call it clay, but why do I need a name called pot?
Because I gave it the shape of it.
Right? It has a distinct shape, and that's why when I put the clay in some other shape, I have to give it a different name.
the material.
But the material is the same. Right? So therefore, what Vedanta says is, we are not denying plurality. The whole universe, mountains, trees, human beings, all the bodies, galaxies, stars, sun, moon, planets, true. But there are forms within forms within forms. If you look at the content, it is only one, which is awareness. Because the whole thing collapses in awareness. Because the atoms and particles collapse in concept, concept collapses in awareness. That means there is only one content to all these forms, and that is awareness. So therefore, the world cannot exist without awareness. Awareness is independently existing of the world. Upanishad Vakyam, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. The entire Jagat, Mithya does not mean illusion. It means it has a dependent reality. It depends upon awareness, and awareness is Satyam. It does not depend upon the world. From which the world comes, by which the world is sustained, unto which the world goes back to. This is the reality. So that means that that awareness that you are is not only does not have any boundary and pervades everything, but whatever it pervades, that itself depends upon awareness for its existence. What is one example which makes me understand this reality? My own dream. Okay. You, when you go to sleep, from your awareness, you create dream time, dream space, dream mountains, dream river, dream characters, within which all the interactions take place. When the interactions takes place, what? You have feelings. So sometimes you have very happy dreams and sometimes you have nightmare. The whole show, if you begin, as long as you think I'm one of the characters in the dream, how do you interact in the dream world? As though you are one character and everybody else is other than you. If a wise person in the dream comes and says, hey, all these differences that you see is actually only one thing. Look at this dream mountain. What is the truth of that dream mountain? Your awareness. What is the truth of the dream river? My awareness. What is the truth of dream different characters that you see? Your awareness. While the entire dream cannot exist without your awareness, is your awareness at any time affected by what is going on in the dream? No. Pervading everything, creating everything, it's free. It never takes on the attribute of forms. Come back to the waking world. Awareness is unconnected, it is free from all attributes. Attributes belong to the physical body, attributes belong to the mind, attributes belong to objects, not to awareness. Awareness pervades everything and it's free. Okay. Now those things which seem to have attributes and those who are tangible are mithya. They have a dependent reality. They are there until the time that you inquire into the truth. The minute you start inquiring into the truth, you say table is nothing but wood, wood is nothing but the tree is nothing but the cells are nothing but the atoms are nothing but particles Particles are nothing but concept, and that concept depends upon awareness.
Every time I do it. Just love it.
And what applies to the table applies to everything, every object in the universe. This is the vision of oneness that Vedanta is talking about. What you think the world is and what the world is, that is completely different. Yeah. So this is what he says, Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is awareness and Prakriti is what? That Maya, that capacity which enables the awareness to project what? As all these different objects in the universe. Okay. What is Jnanam and Jnayam? Jnanam is knowledge of this. What is to be known by an individual is this knowledge. Jnayam is what? What is to be known is this reality. Because if this is the reality, and if I don't know this reality, then I'm living in what? I'm not exactly. I'm not in touch with what is. Okay. And the loss to me by not being in touch with what is enormous. Why? Because this awareness, which is my nature, which is what? The truth of the whole universe. Where have I thought, what is this I, which is the truth of the whole universe? I have taken it to be what? Just confined to only one given body and mind. Something which is limitless, I have given it such a small place, and then I cannot stand the smallness. And I try every different way that is possible to remove that smallness. Behind every pursuit, my whole attempt is to remove the smallness. And as long as I don't correct this vision about the nature of I, there is no way I'm going to remove that smallness. So therefore, what is to be known is this reality about myself. And what enables me to know this reality about myself is a certain values. Because in order for my mind to reach these finer levels of thinking and comprehend its meaning accurately without distorting their meaning, it requires a highly objective, brilliant and discriminative mind. Okay. So what are the means to achieve this kind of a mind which is able to capture this vision accurately, without adding one's own meaning or distorting the vision? What are the values which helps you to cultivate the mind, to make it subtle, to make it refined, is explained by Lord Krishna, which we will see in the next class.
You said something that who made everything?
Yeah.
That was the question.
Yeah.
So ultimately what you're saying is that there is really nothing. It all boils down.
Okay. Now that awareness, with reference to its creative capacity, we give it a different name. We give it a name, Ishvara. Ishvara is the cause of the universe. It becomes the cause of the universe.
Yeah.
So that is it. the next class we will see all the beautiful values that one needs to inculcate in order to be the recipient of this knowledge. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om